everyone. This is Anna Nistorova, and welcome to my podcast. And I want to welcome to my episode, my guest today, which is Rina Chong, a friend of mine that I've known for many years now. And Rina is a business consultant, an entrepreneur, and the VP of marketing at V Generation. And thank you so much, Rina, for joining me. I'm so happy to see you, actually. So glad to see you.
I'm so happy to see you too, and Happy New Year. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm so honored and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you as well.
I think we have we're having some technical difficulties before, so we're praying that this works. It's a little bit choppy, but
I hope so too.
It work. Okay.
I agree. We will make it work. And I just want to say that last time I saw you, I saw you in Italy. That was last summer of 2022. And right now you are, where exactly are you? Are you in Thailand?
I'm in Bangkok right now. So it's 10:37 a.m. for me, and you're all the way in San Diego.
Yes. So we have a pretty big time difference right now. And maybe that's also explains why we have some maybe technical difficulties, just how far away we are right now. But I'm so happy to have you on board, and I'm thrilled to share your story with my listeners, with my audience, because your story is very remarkable. And I want to ask you questions about where you are right now. How did you get to this point? And I want you to tell me and my audience about your life journey, because you are a very inspirational person to me. And we'll jump right into your story. We're not going to waste time on the introduction. I just want you to tell me. So what brought you to Thailand? What brought you to Bangkok? Because we spoke and I was actually visiting you in a small town in Italy, southern Italy, in June last year. So how did it happen that you are right now in Bangkok?
So I'll just backtrack a little bit. The company that I work for now. So I'm the VP of marketing for V Generation, which is a community of future makers. They're taking advantage of basically wearable tech that they actually own the data. And through that, they're creating healthier habits. So they're contributing to the first decentralized digital health ecosystem that we've created through the products, through the first web D app that uses your heartbeat to mine crypto. So it's just this phenomenal company that's making waves in the Web3 healthy metaverse kind of, direction that we're all going. So I met them in Miami. And that was kind of the time during COVID, the lockdowns, and then all of a sudden all this money was being printed and nobody wanted to work because they were getting more money doing nothing than actually working. So they had invited me to Italy to use their resources there. And that's pretty much how it started. And then you came to visit, and that was so cool. But yes, I did live in a little town called Cava dei Tirreni. It's 3 minutes from the beginning of the Amalfi Coast. So life wasn't too hard. It was beautiful. And then we had an event here and just decided to start growing our operations more in Asia, because Asia is our biggest market. So that's how I'm here. I'm in Bangkok. I'm in the financial district. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what the contrast between here and in Italy. So
yes, and some photos that you post online and you share with me, they're amazing. They look fantastic. And it's such a difference between Italy and a place that I've seen and where you are right now. So I actually will ask you more questions about the transition from one country to another, because it's definitely a challenging but very exciting thing to do, to move from one place to another and explore. So I'll have more questions for you in that regard. But let's jump into more of a beginning, like the background story of your life, because you are originally from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And this is where we met about 6 years ago. And I am so grateful that we met. And I want to ask you to tell me and my audience a little bit more about your background. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school and how you've changed your life, because that would be the goal of my conversation, just to show how people are capable of changing their life if they really want to, and how many remarkable things they can do in life. So I'll let you tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, do we have 10 hours? So I'll give you the cold notes of my life. Yes, I was born in Calgary, Alberta, 1977. So back in the 70s, my mom was a single mom from Singapore. My father was from Malaysia. I didn't know him. I met him one time, and that's another story about that one interaction that I did have with him and how it really impacted my life, my relationships, everything. And that's another story. But as far as work ethic and everything goes, my mom was a single mom. I saw her work her butt off. It wasn't easy. She was basically working to put me in daycare, and that was it. We had no money. We grew up dirt poor. And, looking at me now, or maybe even growing up, a lot of people didn't think that. They thought I grew up from, a perfect family and had a silver spoon in my mouth and all these things, but it's not. I can remember earlier on in my life when I was just a little girl, how girls would play with dolls and tea sets and things like that and have their babies. No, I was like, I want to be a boss. So I would take sunglasses and pop out the lenses and put them on. And I had my calculator and my little briefcase, and I'd be wearing high heels and a blazer. And that was my play. I wanted to be the boss. And I think also growing up, watching my mom be the boss of the household, be my mom and the dad, and watching her struggle and things like that. It really made me who I am today. And when I say that, I know many people will say things like that almost as if it was a cop out, like, oh, I am the way I am because, and it's not like I had a good upbringing. My mom was struggling. I saw her, she was quite abusive, people hurt. And it's just, passing things down from generation to generation. And I wanted to be where it stopped. Right. So, and then I had my son really young, and then, so you kind of do take after your parents in some way, but I knew that many of the things that my mom did, I knew I wasn't going to do, and so although she did the best that she could to raise me, I had a hard life. I mean, I didn't even know if we'd get food on the table. My mom never cooked. She was too busy working. I raised myself, started hanging out with the wrong people. Like, it was just crazy, so I just thank God that, I had the strength to get out of that, to become self-actualized and become more aware of, just being accountable with my life. And so, as far as, when I was younger, not playing with dolls and playing with, more kind of like the business toy sets, it just kind of, I went down that path. Right. And that's what kind of manifested. So, I mean, imagine when you're a kid and you're imagining and envisioning, what happens when we get older? Why do we stop that? When you're young, it's like, I'm going to be an astronaut. But guess what? Then you've got the moms and everyone, oh no, you can't be like that. Like, oh my gosh, like, talk about stomping on people's dreams. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent. So, but that was kind of my history, just young, and had my son young, and, did everything backwards. I did everything backwards from what the system wants you to do, which is go to school, get a job, get married, buy a house, have a baby, and then pay off debt for the rest of your life. So it was very interesting. I look back now and I'm like, I did it the right way, because right now all my friends are too tired. They've got 2 kids running around, married, never see their husbands. They're both paying off debt, and they're not happy, and they don't have the energy or time to go maybe do some of the things that I'm doing now.
Yeah, definitely. And do you remember what age you realized it? What age you realized that you will change your life and you're not going to follow that pattern that you saw with your mom and maybe some of the friends and people you were surrounded by?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a few things, being mixed in the wrong crowd and knowing that I could be better and that I wanted more. So, sometimes being in bad relationships or having bad friends is kind of helpful, because it makes you realize, that that's not what you want or deserve, and you deserve more. So I think growing up, not having, any money, being poor, not knowing if I was going to have a meal or not, it pushed me because I wanted to eat, I wanted to have a good life. I was a little girl raising myself up in Calgary, Alberta, and being Asian. And actually my friend the other day asked me if I had experienced racism, and not so much for me, I think more for my mom back in the 70s, you know what I mean? So, but it was more seeing my mom work really hard. I didn't want to be like her. So, and also how she raised me. And then, so that changed the way I raised my son. I never laid a hand on him. I never had to. But now kind of looking at the way the world is, I'm kind of glad I got beat, I'm kind of glad I got told I wasn't good enough, because it pushed me. And now you can't do that. Now, if you do that, they're going to call child services on you, and you're going to go to jail or whatever. Right. So things have changed, but, if it weren't for that, having wanting more in life, but I think what really got that going for me was starting my own business. So back in the day, I was working in oil and gas, and I was presented with an opportunity to join. Of course, I think everybody's first network marketing was, Amway or Mary Kay or something like that. So that's how I got into personal development as well, because it was heavy on personal development, and you wouldn't get those type of books or that type of training, in your corporate walls, right? So that really did it for me. Seeing people who came from rags to riches through that just inspired me, and I don't care what anybody says about that. It developed me. I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't do that, if I wasn't a master distributor for a company, and through that, just the belief and just pushing through all the negativity and learning to let go of people that didn't support you. Like, it was just all of it, I'm so grateful that I took that step and didn't listen to people who didn't believe.
Yeah. But it takes certain strength too, right? To let go people that do not believe in you, or some people that maybe you have some ties from childhood, and yet you feel that you need to move away from them. So how did it work for you? How did you manage that? Was it tough for you, or was it relatively easy? Once you realized that there are some people that you want to have in your life, you just said, like, okay, that's it. I'm going to minimize my communication with them. Was it that way, or how did you come up with that?
So, of course, at the time when you're growing and developing, you're changing. So it's like being that crab in the bucket. You're trying to get out, but the other crabs are holding you back, trying to pull you back in. And so when you work on yourself and you know your self-worth and you know what you want, you know where you want to go, those people start to not matter anymore. And it's easier to let them go. Self-worth is actually one of the most important things. I am in this not group chat. It's a Facebook page with just women. It's a safe environment for people, that just moved to Bangkok. They're all expats. They have no one to turn to maybe, but I read a lot of the comments in there, and the women, with even friends or boyfriends that are stalkers or abusive, they're always saying, how can I get away from it? Well, you're going to have to get away from it somehow, but in order not to get back into that type of scenario, you have to work on yourself. You can't go volunteer and think you're going to be better, or you can't replace your abusive ex with a new ex. It's you at the end of the day, the common denominator. Every situation is different, but if you find that you're getting yourself into the same situation, it's you. So you have to start looking inward instead of outward, and take responsibility, because that guy is going to be who he is, but it's up to you if you allow somebody to treat you that way. And if you know your self-worth and you wouldn't allow your friends to be treated that way, but yet often we allow us to be treated that way, but it all comes down to self-worth. So for me, it was really, having having dreams and talking to people about some of my goals and plans, even to move out of Canada, And I remember back then when I was working in oil and gas, they said, well, why are you moving out of Canada? Just make your money here and you can go to Arizona and Vegas. Like, are you kidding me? There's so much more of the world to see than just Arizona and Vegas. But that was the mentality and that was a bubble that I lived in Calgary. So when I started, having small wins and achieving and going towards my dreams, and you realize who doesn't support you. So it's almost easy, because you're like, oh, well, but to let go of toxic people, I would just, tell them how I felt, if they were open to constructive criticism, I'll always ask. But at the end of the day, it's your choice, right? Who you're going to surround yourself with. So I would just kind of wean myself away, and by doing that, people get hurt. I mean, obviously, if you're not going to tell them, but then their true colors come out, and there's been many relationships that I've just kind of dwindle away. There was no fight or argument or anything. And yet that person is so hurt that they're going to turn it around and just, talk shit about you. Sorry for swearing, but that's what happens, right? Because they're hurting, they're wondering why, but so I learned from that not to do that and to explain and let them know, because that's not fair either, to let them hang. Then they don't know what happened. And, in a way, when you're telling them and being honest, which I was just talking to a friend last night, he said he can't do that, he can't, he'd rather not tell them. And I said, but then you're doing a disservice to them if you're not being honest, So it's like what you said before. I don't care what anyone thinks, as long as what I'm doing serves me and also my intention is good to serve the other person, how they react is none of my business and out of my control. And that deals with your karma and everything as well too, right? So it's like, someone walking out of it could be as simple as someone walking out of the bathroom with toilet paper hanging off their shoe or their back, and you don't say anything. It's going to happen to you one day, and you better hope and wish that somebody tells you you've got toilet paper hanging out from, your bottom or your shoe.
Yeah, no, for sure. In terms of leaving one place and moving to another place, that's another part. And we discussed with you while I was visiting you in Italy, that how different life can be and how not many people are open to make those quick changes and make those moves from one place to another, adapting, meeting new people. You were surrounded by a completely different environment. Remember, we're talking about like different food, different types of people. Everything was different. And yet you were so courageous and just like, okay, I'm going to do it. And, and you were doing amazing. And then next opportunity came up and now you're in Bangkok. So how did you, I guess, deal with those decisions first? Because first of all, like you get the offer and you say, okay, I'm going to go right away. Or you think a little bit, or it's a no-brainer for you. I want to do something new. Is it challenging for you? Is it something like, that you were nervous about, or it's relatively easy for you by now? Because you've done a few moves. You've moved from Canada to the US, then you moved from the US to Italy, right? And now from Italy to Thailand. Was it tough? Was it?
No. It's funny because even the people that live in the little town that were born there, the founders are like, you were really brave. I can't believe you did that, And I was. I mean, it was one thing to move from Calgary to the States. It's just, US is just on steroids, it's like Canada on steroids. So, but there was still, I mean, Miami's different, I mean, I spent a lot of time in San Diego as well in Los Angeles, but it's not anything like moving to another continent. So, was it easy for me? Yeah. I mean, for me, I'll seize all opportunity that, I mean, obviously I'm going to think it through, I'm spontaneous, but you have to think about it long-term. It also makes it easy that I'm single, so, and my son's grown up, married, my mom's healthy and happy with her community. So for me, it was a no-brainer because before I had moved to the US, I needed to stay closer to my mom. That's why San Diego was there. But now that everyone's taken care of, I see it as a time for myself. I look at my friends, like I said, who have kids and a partner, and, they're really, saying, I'm living life vicariously through you, and I think, but I lived my life vicariously through you when I was younger, because when I was younger, I had my son young. I wasn't out backpacking and traveling and doing all these things and Erasmus and all that. And now, it's flipped, so going back, I did everything opposite. So it's easy for me. Italy, I guess I wasn't, when you haven't been to Italy or been down to the south, you don't know, right? So when we think of Italy, we think Milan and Rome and all these things, right? No, I was in a little tiny town called Cava dei Tirreni. I was in the hotel. I open up the blinds and I look out and I'm like, what is this? It's like industrial area, train tracks. I mean, you've been there, you understand, what I mean. But I thought, oh my gosh, what did I do? So there was a little bit of like, what did I just do? Right. But then I grew to love it. It was a little town comparable to, I don't know, maybe like a Cochrane or something like that, 60,000 people. But you also have to remember, not comparable in size to Cochrane, but not mentality or anything like that. Right. So I didn't speak the language. Obviously the people in the company, they were taking English lessons, and, we're taking this company internationally. So, it was more for them to learn English and having me there to practice and everything. But it is easy for me, and I know that I have helped a few people pack their stuff up and leave, and they message me and they say that was the best decision I've ever made in my life, because I've been planning for this. I don't want to get into it, but New World Order, I've been talking about this since 25 years ago. Nobody believed me. And I said, you need to start preparing now. And whether it was a network marketing company I was with as a side hustle, and got really successful in that, or if it was my own consulting business, the question is, if anything happens, can you work remotely? Does your job depend on you being there? Does your job, are you reliant on somebody, right? So ever since then, I was always preparing. So as far as picking up and moving, well, after moving to Vancouver and how long that took, that didn't take very long, but I still had to sell a house. So after that kind of experience, I was like, I want to be free. I don't want a big 5,000 square house with furniture and and I felt really freeing. So Vancouver was the beginning for me, and it was only the next province, but still, it's still a big move. But, experiencing being held down by things and stuff that I wasn't even using, so that kind of was the beginning of, my kind of ability to become a digital nomad, which people are, wanting that right now and are doing in all these other countries, offering visas and things like that. So, it was easy. And if you have an opportunity, take it. Don't be afraid of what if, you never know. It could work out amazing, and nothing is permanent, but you have to try. Yeah. So.
Well, first of all, I'm not even surprised that you inspired people in Italy to change their lives, because I can see how you being there and doing your things was life-changing for some people. Because I've been there, and I remember people we met. I remember all those chats that we had, like at a little cafe down the street from your apartment. That was like lovely. But I can see how you being there, being an absolutely, well, starting from looking differently, speaking different language, working in a different mode, because I remember we were talking about it, that the business mindset, the work ethic, well, not ethics, like work culture was very different in Italy versus North America, and how you were trying to find that work-life balance and just understand the Italian way, as we call it, but always to be that person in a very different environment, but yet being positive, staying positive, talking to people, trying to make sense of things, trying to help other people. I am not surprised that people were making changes in their life. So that does not surprise me at all, because you've been doing remarkably well in your career. And even since I left in June, I think you've had like a 2 raises just in your job, and you moved and you're on a new target now. So it's crazy, but the life seems like it's just given and given and given. And I want to say that I know, because we spoke so many times about how you plan your life. So you don't do, even though you are spontaneous, but you don't just leave it as it is. You plan your life and you work on your goals and you work on what you want to have in life. And like you said, you started early in your life and you've mastered that skill. So maybe we can chat a little bit more about that, like about manifestation, how you actually work on things. Like, I remember you were sharing a story, you wanted to get a new job and how you listed what's important and what you want to have it. And you achieved that, right? You got everything up to the point. So can you talk more about that? How do you plan your life? How do you get those goals? How do you make things happen? I guess that's my question.
Yeah. So going back to Italy and everything, I mean, not speaking the language, being there kind of during the time of COVID as well, and being Asian, and how the narrative started there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was unsettling for me. I felt a little embarrassed. I felt maybe people were judging me. But then at the end of the day, I miss everybody in that little town. I mean, I made such great connections. I really miss them. And I'm having a little bit of FOMO of, the Amalfi Coast, because I'd be going there every weekend. But I also want to say that you're very spontaneous too. And that your story coming to Italy is another story in itself. And it's incredible. And I was so happy that we got to share that moment together and that time together, and kind of almost be going through a little bit of the same thing and being able to work through it together. So I really appreciate you coming. And I that was one of my best memories out in Italy. So thank you for helping make that. Now I forgot what the question was. No. Okay.
Oh yeah.
The goals.
I was gonna say that, yeah, because we in Italy we talked lots about, like you said, because we were going through some challenging stuff together, like similar challenges in life. And I remember how we were talking about how we manifest, how we can actually think and plan things and get what we want. And nowadays people kind of take it, manifestation, it's like a voodoo science in a way, but it's not, because if you really can envision what you want in life and you really understand your desires, you can actually get what you want. So what's your secret? How do you get that? How do you get all the points you are wishing for to come to your life?
So I am not an expert. All I know is what's worked for me. I did watch The Secret when I was younger. I also read the book. There was huge controversy over how it was just a money grab, how it doesn't work. Well, first off, there's more to it than just a book. There's more to just thinking about it. There's so many different aspects and moving parts that need to work together, and also like, water flowing through a pipe. I mean, that pipe's got to be, clear and flowy, because the minute you start squeezing it with doubt, that flow is going to stop. So there's so much to it. How did I get started? It was through, like I said, all the personal self-help books that I read. I was suicidal at one point before my son. Like I said, I got into the wrong crowds. My mom was a single mom. Like, it was not an easy life for me, so I went through a lot of things that many people don't know. Suicidal was one of them. I couldn't even do that. So I thought, okay, well, this is a sign. So I started getting into self-help books and all that. And honestly, Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul, I don't work for him. Best book ever. And I still will go back and read chapters, because you're constantly growing, right? So, that book was a life changer. Like that one, and The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Like, if you are just starting to get into personal development, those are two books that I highly, highly recommend, that changed my life, changed my outlook, everything. I've been writing in a journal for, I don't even know how long, since I was a little girl, but my journaling is much more with intention, and it's not just a Dear Diary. I'm journaling my life as if I have it right now. So I journal every day. I write my manifestations. I meditate. I have to practice canceling, the negative thoughts. We all get them. I'm not perfect. I have to work at it. I can sit here and preach, but I'm still doing the work, so for me, I'm actually taking, this is funny. I'm actually taking a life accelerator course right now. I'm so busy, and this is my excuse, I know, but I'm taking accountability for it. But I love it. I've been doing everything that they're teaching, right? But it gets me accountable to my team, which if you guys are watching, I'm really sorry. I know I'm behind, but I'm going to get there. But you have to always work on it, and you have to, you have to be open to learning new ways and new things, because people say, oh, it doesn't work, First off, they didn't do it long enough. Then the belief wasn't there. Then, you can't just do something and say it doesn't work, especially when you're dealing with manifestation, because manifestation is so important to be in that moment. It's all about, it's not what you want. It's a feeling that you get from wanting what you want. So it's not really money that you want. It's what you can do with the money that you want, So you have to be very clear and specific.
Yeah.
You have to really think about what you want most in life, But what happens is people think about what they don't want. And then I have gotten what I don't want so many times because I kept thinking about it. So basically you have to think about what you want, and then you have to think about it all the time. You have to think about the success of it, not the fear part, right? Oh, it's not going to work, or it's, and oh, my friends say that it's, it's never going to happen. Well, first of all, get rid of your friends and stop with the visions of failure. You have to envision success. You have to envision where you want to be, because that's the feeling. The law of attraction isn't about thinking. It's about the feeling, Just go ahead.
But that's a challenging part. Coming from my own experience, that's the most challenging part. That even for me, sometimes it's hard. We all have those moments of doubt, right? We all have those moments when, yes, maybe you want to be successful, you feel successful, but there's a day or two when you feel absolutely the opposite. So it's not that easy, and it's not that easy to overcome that part, right? And it's so important to learn to at least wave those thoughts or let them go, even though, yeah, it's not easy, but just to at least not to focus on them for that time being, right? So is that the same for you? Because that's how I do it. Like if I have a day or two when I feel absolutely not in my power mode, and I do have those thoughts of doubt and failure and I don't know, everything that can pile up. But the biggest challenge for me was to learn how to let those thoughts go. How it was for you? How do you deal with those?
It's practice. I listen to Mel Robbins. She does the countdown and everything like that too. But also when you're meditating, or, if you're just starting out meditating, you do guided meditation, which is very helpful. But when you can get to the point where you can do, a silent meditation and those thoughts are going to come in, I just cancel, and then I refocus on my breathing. But if I'm not meditating and I'm in the thick of things, and, I just have to, what really helps is going back and reading your main definite purpose statement, which is part of the manifestation, is blue ink, white paper, writing everything down, right? So it's funny because people can't seem to meditate or journal because they're not used to it. It's a practice, right? That's why we call it a practice. So for me, reading my main definite purpose statement reminds me again, or reading, what I was grateful for yesterday, and then writing down what I'm grateful for today helps as well to get out of that funk. Because, when we start feeling like, oh, everything's closing in, it's because we're forgetting to be grateful for where we're at now, so it's like, get back to the present, stop thinking in the future, stop living in the past, be in the present, and be grateful for what you have now, because what you want wants you, but it's the universe or God, whoever you want to call it, can't give you more unless you can appreciate what you have right now. So the most important thing about manifesting too is writing it down. It's writing it down, and it's so cool to see. I took a class where everybody was doing it, and you could look around and people's faces were so happy when they were writing down, where they were at, in the present. I have this now, I feel so great. And that's really what it is. So it's not even about journaling. It's about being in that feeling of, what you really want, being in that feeling and holding it there. That's what the attraction is, Well, think about the people that you've attracted in your life. It's because that's who you are, Or think about, the car that you bought, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these cars everywhere, It's really a mental, it's a state of mind, right? But writing it down, and it's so cool to see, what you wanted before, to what you want now, and also more rewarding to see what you wanted before that you have now, it's just, you think about your life and what you have. You didn't know when you were going to get it, but it happened. So there's a sequence too, right? So you're writing it down, you're visualizing it too. You're not just writing it down, and you got to visualize it and be so happy, you have to feel. You can always, if you can do it well enough, you can even smell, oh, I'm by the beach, I'm driving along in my Miami blue Porsche, driving on the street with wind in my hair, the smell of the sea. Like, you can actually imagine, and that's where you need to be in that moment, to visualize it and to believe in it too. Because any form of doubt, it's like that water flow. The minute, that pipe is squeezed, that water flow isn't flowing anymore, right? So the belief is there, and action, So I know a lot of people with The Secret. It doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. It's the law of attraction has action to it. You have to work towards it, right? So I think if you're working towards it, you're taking the steps that you need to do in the real world, but you're still visualizing it, writing it down every day. Every day you have to write it down. First thing in the morning, you got a journal, right? So how do you get out of the funk? I'd say, reread the stuff that you wrote. It should put you in a really good mood and get those negative thoughts out of your head.
Yeah. And for those who are, I play a little of a devil's advocate for those people who are listening to us and think maybe, oh, it sounds too good to be true. I'm sure there are people like that out there. First of all, I want to say that I was the witness
your
when
life
I would. Yeah. I was a witness of you actually doing what you were sharing right now while I was visiting you. So that's number one thing. I remember that. Second of all, your life actually in everything that I know, obviously we cannot go over everything you've achieved to date, but what I know from our interactions and from your story, you have manifested what you wanted. You got the life you wanted to create for yourself, and you're still on the path of building it. So to me, that's another sign and proof that what you were doing is working. But I also want to say that I guess I'm losing my thought here in a sense of playing a devil's advocate. People will question things, but they say, "Oh, you think about driving a Porsche, wind in the hair." Like for me, sometimes it's hard to visualize, but I still try to write things down with a positive outlook, maybe without those details, but just to have something on paper, something solid that I can go back to. Maybe only that can also be a start. You don't have to do all of those things you mentioned right away, because I've struggled with it myself. Like sometimes you can get all the pieces together or imagine everything to the point of you can feel it, smell it, etc. But with positive thinking and writing it down, putting on paper, I think it's already a big step. What do you think? Do you think you agree with me? Would that be the first thing and see what happens? Like that would be my suggestion to people. Try it and see what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, you really have to have a clear mind and a clear path and a knowing of what you want, because if you don't know, how are you going to get it? And if there's any doubt, but then that goes back to self-worth. If you can't visualize yourself, then you need to work on your self-worth, right? So I think, when you visualize it, okay, so you've written it down and you visualize it, and then you have to act as if. I mean, if you want, I don't know, a killer body and you want to be walking down the runway, well, you have to act as if. So act as if you are training to go down the runway. So what are you going to do if you're acting as if? For me, I don't believe in, fake it till you make it. I don't mean that at all. I think that's, it's BS. That is BS. Fake it till, but acting as if, because you're in the feeling. So acting as if I want to be on the runway. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to go to the gym. So I'm going to the gym, so you can think of it that way. Yeah. Oh, okay, I've got to, make this shake and I got to go, eat this keto diet, whatever. I'm acting as if, because I'm living the life as if I'm already on that runway. And these are the things that I have to do to maintain. So actually, I just thought about that now. I thought, you know what, act as if it really isn't, fake it till you make it. Act as if, you want to be more confident. What are you going to do? What do confident people do? They sit up straighter, the shoulders back, they have posture, right? So when you're acting as if, you have to act as if you already have it, Maybe you're driving a beater. Maybe you're driving, I don't know, something that's rusty. You drive it as if it is your Porsche or Maserati or whatever you want. You drive it as if it's that already. People might be looking at you and you're so confident in your car because in your head, you're driving that car. People might be looking over and being like, wow, that guy's really confident in his beater. And one day it'll happen. One day it will happen. But also it's not a one-time thing. Manifestation isn't a one-time thing. You can't just write it down and be like, hey, I wrote it down, 5 pages. Let's see what happens. Not all. You've got to practice. You have to continue journaling and affirmations. And, I have a friend that is just nothing ever works out. She's a victim. It's the government's fault. It's someone else's fault. And I see that, and it's, I never have money, or it's all this negative talk. Maybe you don't have money. Okay. I'm not saying you should act as if and say, I have tons of money, but I'm working on it. I'm working on earning more income. I'm working on earning a side hustle, instead of I have no money. So you can see the difference of, you're not lying to yourself, you're working towards it. But the more you say what you don't have, the more you're going to have. The more you say that you have, you are going to get that. So if people would just do the opposite of what they're doing, it'll work, because what they're doing with the negative self-talk and everything is keeping them in the same place. So just flip it, and start meditating and journaling and exercising and surrounding yourself with people that are going to support you and give you ideas and tell you that you can, instead of dealing with people that are telling you that you can't. I had to get rid of so many people, back then I was all over the map, but I was all over the map because I wasn't going to settle for a job. I wasn't going to settle for, trading my time for money. So, and as being an entrepreneur, you actually work harder for yourself. It's not a 9 to 5. You're actually busting your butt 24/7 for yourself, So I think when people saw that, they thought, oh, you need to settle down, this and that. I don't need to do anything. I know where I'm headed. And I can see, when people start telling you their opinion, it really is based on what they can or can't do. It has nothing even to do with you, because the more you tell people about what you want to do, you need to be prepared for the type of, opinions that they're going to have, and I know so many people that have all these big dreams. They have a plan, literally a plan, business plan, everything. And people say, no, it's not going to work. You're going to fail. And then in that moment, if someone's not strong enough or believing in what they want, then all of a sudden they're like, their dream is crushed, just because they listen to someone who doesn't have what they want and isn't even doing what they want. So, a big piece of advice is don't listen to people who don't have what you want and that have never done or are doing what you want to do. Why are you taking advice from them? Find a mentor in your field and listen to them, or just don't tell people what you're doing. That I found helped a lot. was to just not tell people what you're doing until maybe you've achieved some success. If those are the people that need to see the success first, you want to keep friends like that? I don't know, but they'll show up once you're successful.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you on that. That's something that I learned quite early in my life, that don't tell much until you have something, or at least a few steps into the process. And I don't know if it's a psychological thing for me, but it came to me naturally in a way that don't say anything, don't share until you have at least a good plan, solid plan, or maybe 1 or 2 steps already done. And then you can actually go and ask questions. Of course, you need help and you advice from people. But I don't know, for some reason it helps so much just to concentrate on it, keep it to yourself. And then once you have a solid plan and you're ready to act, maybe then to go and ask and say and talk to people and tell people.
I mean, there are those people that, it's just, all talk, right? So yes, I have friends like that. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm like, are you? And then I get tired of it because I see it, right? I'm an action person. I take accountability. And so when I see that, I don't even, I'm not going to support you. And I'm not even going to tell you anymore what you need to do because that's their own journey. So yes, it does help when we tell people, and even the ones that say that it's not going to work or we can't do it, to push us. But I don't want that type of support. I don't want to do things out of, spite just to show people. You know what I mean? And I don't think, that's why people do things. But sometimes in the end, that it does happen where it's like, I'm going to show them, right? So I guess if it pushes you and propels you to do it, then great. But, it still kind of doesn't feel good when you're operating from that type of, I'm going to show you, So, it's interesting how people play a part of really your future too, your movie,
definitely.
you're
they make up
director.
Yeah.
And guess what? You can fire anyone you want. You have to remember, people have to remember that, right? I mean, I don't care who you are, if you're family, a best friend, if you disrespect me, you're out. Because I find the closer people are to you, they feel that they can treat you less than what they would a stranger. And that's just family, and I don't like that. It's hard. I grew up like that too, with my mom and our relationship and things like that. I don't want that with friends and strangers and things. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that, but just people in general.
Yeah. No, but you are right. And people are important and everyone who surrounds you contributes to who you are, right? So to me, that's totally fair comment. And you learned how to sort those people out and leave people that you feel empowered by next to you, and you leave people who are putting you down behind you. So to me, it's a no-brainer. But for some people, it's a intentional step that they need to make in order to improve their life and move on and do more and better. But what about the fears? Let's talk a little bit about fears, because I know you've coached people in the past. So what would be the common fear that you've seen that people that you've coached had that stopped them from achieving what they wanted?
Well, a lot is
fear is a very strong stopper. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the number one dream killer, right? So, a lot of it is success. It's literally the fear of success. And it sounds so weird to think that, because people just can't imagine themselves there. They're imagining always what could go wrong. It's not going to work out. What happens if it doesn't work out? Then they start planning from what happens when it doesn't work out, when they haven't even started. So fear is number one. And it's so funny because I was at the Mahanakan Skywalk, which is 314 meters. It's a big blockchain building in Bangkok. And it's called the glass tray that you stand on. So imagine the Calgary Tower. That is like when you step onto that glass. So imagine that about 30 times bigger. So you're walking on a really big platform. And I had a friend visiting from Korea, and we went up, and she wanted to go first, or I don't know how we decided, but she was going on first, and she was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. And I have the recording of me saying, don't worry, you can do it. I was cheering her on. I'm like, you can do it. It's all in your mind. You're safe. You're safe. You're safe. And she was very, very scared as she did it. And we got the photo, and then it was my turn. I couldn't believe how scared I was. And I was just telling her, for some reason, so I don't know, maybe I do have, a little bit, maybe I am a little bit afraid of heights, but it was just so funny how that happened. And I was on the glass, but I couldn't step forward. I was so scared. So kind of got over it. She was still scared. She wouldn't go on it a second time or whatever, but I went on again. And then yesterday I went during the daytime. It was my friend's birthday, so we went there. And this time I was okay. So with that being said, it's like, it's fear of the unknown, so, and how do you know, until you do it? So I remember, even opportunities, even younger, not big opportunities of moving or anything, but just even some of the jobs that I got back then, I was like, I don't know if I can do it. Can I? You don't know unless you try. So I'd even just let go of that fear, be confident, know that you can, know that you're safe, and just do it. Just do it. What are you going to lose? So I think there's that. Support is another thing, family, friend support. I mean, how can you feel good about moving forward with something if your partner doesn't support you? So I saw a lot of that. And so, how I feel about that. You have one life, right? And I'm going to live out my dreams. And if someone is going to stop me, that's not my person, relationships, people, friendship. What is friendship? It's compassion, trust, it's, support, but again, partnerships and family, things like that. It's always what they want for you, for them. But I mean, with the fear, I think with the fear and manifestation, how do you overcome it? Well, it's again, just your worthiness, knowing who you are, not caring about what anybody thinks about you or what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting people and you're a good person and you speak good of people all the time and you're just a good person. It's all that energy, so there's so much to it. You can't be, nice on camera and be the biggest bitch to your coworkers and this, it doesn't work. It knows, energy knows, so, but, that's for practicing awareness, and awareness with yourself. I'm not perfect. I see where I've made mistakes. I've practiced learning how to say sorry, even though it's funny. Sorry is one of the hardest things humans can do to one another, apologizing, but being mean is easy, but apologizing, it's like, it does something to their ego. It's like almost makes them feel like they're defeated, which is so the opposite. I mean, that's what we need more of is love, and letting go of ego. Anyways, that's something else.
Yeah. And yet Canadians are very famous. Canadians are very famous for saying sorry. But I think the sorry that you were talking about, it's a much deeper story. And I completely agree. It's so tough sometimes to actually owning that feeling and coming to someone and say, sorry, I did something wrong. I think it definitely takes some
that to myself,
practice.
And I had to start doing that to myself because often we're really hard on ourselves, right? And you should be, I mean, no one else is going to do it for you, but also being aware of, where your mistakes are and how you can improve, it's hard to take constructive criticism, but I'm open to it and I have no problem with it. Many people can't, they get defensive, right? No matter how nice you tell them, no matter how you tweak the message and make sure that because they're so sensitive that they don't. No, it's again, at that point, it's not you, it's that person. So, but I wanted to say,
but how would you even give feedback? Oh, sorry, Rina, I lost you there for a second. But how do you even give feedback to people nowadays? So I'm curious to know, especially at your job, for example, right? so you still need to give some feedback to people. Sometimes it's not a positive one, but the world is moving to the direction that people become more and more sensitive to feedback, to any type of criticism. They become, I guess, they start blaming everyone or everything, and it's, I see it more and more. Maybe not so much in my close circle, but I see it on maybe outside of it more and more frequently now. So how do you give feedback now?
Well, yeah, like you said, it's not easy, and whether it's a friend or a coworker, um, if you're managing, that's different. That is your job. But let's stay with friends right now, because that's who we interact with most. And going back to how do you let those people go? Some people don't want to change. Some people are happy the way they are, and that's fine. I'm always open to improvement. I'll always ask my friends, like, if I'm doing something wrong or I hurt you in some way, just let me know. So there's no way around it. I think if you're dealing with someone really sensitive, you have a choice to stay friends with them or not. Or I always say, what would love do? Before I message or have a conversation, maybe I'm the one that's really upset. It's still, what would love do? And unfortunately, most people don't ask that before replying or anything, right? So, I have many friends that, are enjoying what I'm doing, and they love seeing, my travels and things like that. How do you do it? So I look at them and I see where they're falling short on, or, some people get really distracted. So, I mean, as far as that goes, it's, you always want to compliment someone first, ease into it, because there's good sides of people, but sometimes that will lead into, maybe bad habits, right? So, I mean, how do you do it? You have to be invited to, I mean, it's like men, you tell them a problem and they want to solve it right away. But what do women need? We just need them to listen, but if they don't know that, they don't know that, right? So, definitely ask first. I'm not here to tell anybody what to do with their life, unless it's affecting me. So if it's affecting me, if you're doing something that's affecting me, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be honest and say, we've been friends for so long, da da da, and just kind of ease into that, and then go into, how I feel. Not what you did or not what that person did or does. It's how you feel, right? But as far as giving someone constructive criticism on their life, yeah, you kind of have to ask permission first. And that's it. I don't sugarcoat things. People know that. I'm going to tell them straight up. I wish people would have done that for me, but they don't, because people are too afraid of, how someone's going to take
Hurting.
it.
Yeah, hurting you.
It's like this. So this is a perfect example. Okay. You've got a girlfriend. Maybe you don't know her so well, but you're acquaintances, and you see her boyfriend cheating on her. I'm not going to say out for lunch, because it's not you're out for lunch, but let's say you saw him kissing someone else, many women wouldn't tell her. But yet you and I could sit here and say, I wish they would tell us, but many people don't. Why? Because most women, if you tell that woman, depending how she is, she's going to freak out on you. So then people don't, you know what I mean? I think it's our duty, as humans, to have each other's backs, maybe they're in an open relationship. I don't know, but I would want someone to tell me. So however they take it, at least I told them, you know what I mean? So on your end, you feel good about it, and whatever happens, happens. I've done that before. And, this one lady was like, I'm so happy you told me. She's now on to another relationship. Like, if I didn't tell her, she'd be still stuck with that guy who's cheating, so I don't really care what people think, because my delivery isn't that I don't care what you think attitude. I'm going to come to you with compassion and, not so much supportive, but it's It's hard to say because it's really how people react. And that's probably why people don't tell people, but I think it's our duty to, and I will tell you or
Yeah.
anyone,
Yeah. 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 And I think you also take responsibility for what you say. And I think that's important because you know why you're doing it. You're true to yourself and true to that friend because obviously you care about that person. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. And yeah, I think it's a tough one. It's a tough one. And many people face that in their lifetime. It's a tough one to solve and it's a tough decision to make because you will have to accept the result of that action, no matter what it is, right? Like you will have to accept the result. So being ready to accept whatever reaction from that person will follow and live with
Yes,
that. It's
exactly.
also a big part of coming to that decision, right?
But people need to learn to be compassionate and need to learn that, to really not take things personally. If I'm doing something wrong, oh my gosh, please tell me, I'm open to that. But it's really about the person being willing for change, But anyways, that's going off topic. But I did want to say, because you did say, oh, some people might think, airy fairy manifestation, but manifestation is, you have to know what you want, write it down, affirmations, everything, but you can't, it doesn't happen when you want it to. So we have to remember that because that's a blockage. So another reason why it doesn't work for some people is because they have the blockage of first the fear, the doubts, and then also the when. And sometimes even the how doesn't even turn into the way you thought it would be, how to get there, so you just can't, you can't be so focused on when. I know we wanted things yesterday, but did you do the work to get there? So depending on what you want, first off, it's going to take time and it's not going to happen overnight, so I think people should just not be so concerned about when, because if you put a time limit on it, which you should on goals, but if you really put a time limit on, some of the really big ones and it's not happening, that's another blockage. So for me, I think what's happening when people say manifesting doesn't work, it's the blockages of doubt and being too concerned about, when it's going to happen. Because then when it doesn't happen and you give yourself that time, then you think, oh, it doesn't work. And then you start giving up on other dreams, right? So don't concern yourself because the universe works in so many different miraculous ways.
Mysterious ways. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, mysterious, miraculous. It is miraculous. So when it does happen, because you think, oh my gosh, like I can look back and think, wow, it didn't happen at that time, but it still happened. And I wanted it to happen. And it works.
And I think it kind of reminded me, yeah, it does. And it reminded me of a movie. I don't remember the title. I don't remember the name of that movie. So it was a movie about a woman that moved from the US. She's a writer from the US to Italy. And there was a story that she covered in her book that Italians had like a railroad built through, I think, Alps coming from one side of Italy to another, yet they didn't have trains yet built for it. So they kind of saw it beforehand and they built things and roadblocks before. And then once the train was ready, they already had the railroad kind of built through that area. I don't remember the name. I need to find out. But it's definitely, you have to build your blocks. But I'll share with you, and maybe I'll find it and I'll share it in the comments to our episode too, so people can watch it. Along with actually books that you mentioned, because that's what I do for my podcast. I try to share books that my guests are mentioning, just so people can go and find those books and find the information that we share. So, yeah, that was. But what you described,
I love what you said about the railroad. I mean, think about it. If people, okay, so let's even think about, somebody building a building on a piece of land.
Mm-hmm.
What had to be set up? You had to have your plans, you had to have a vision, then you have to put it down, then you have to put it into motion. That's manifestation. That building, this blockchain building that I look at, it was manifested through what? Blueprints, all these things, whatever architects have to do. It's the same thing. Yeah. So, it's the same thing as they did a study of a group of people that wanted to gain muscle or lose weight. Half of the class worked out. The other half of the class imagined working out. They really imagined working out, and they actually lost weight. They didn't even work out, and they actually lost weight just from imagining themselves. So if you can imagine it, okay, so weight loss, everyone's like, oh, weight loss, weight loss. I think you have to change the way you look at what weight loss is. Is it really weight loss that you want, or is it what comes with it? Confidence, fitting in your clothes better. You know what I mean? All those things, right? So, and also Anthony Robbins says, don't wait until your should becomes a must. And that is so important. So when you're manifesting, what are you manifesting? Are you manifesting things that you really need right now? Like for me, when you're manifesting, you should want it, but you don't need it. Because if you need it and you don't get it, then who are you without it? And that's the problem, right? When people, because they start valuing their self-worth through things like I'm going to feel more, I mean, yes, you're going to feel confident when you lose weight, but I'm going to be so happy when I drive that Porsche. Well, what if you don't get it? How happy will you be then? So when you're manifesting, don't come at a place that you need it. You know, you want it. You know, needing and wanting is they're two things. So, you know, and just
what you touched on is so true. Is people sometimes they think I want to be a millionaire, but and they don't have it, or I want to have my company, or I want to start my business, and if they don't get it, they get so frustrated. Right. So it's important to know that I want to do something or create something. Yes, create something, but not like I want to have $1 million or like I want to have a business, but then you don't get it, or I don't know, even if sometimes it doesn't work in your time frame and then people get frustrated. I think it also breaks the chain.
And I also think, you know, as far as like energy and karma and things like that go, being driven by money is good. I mean, you should, you know, but that's not why. That's not the why. So, you know, becoming really clear, like Simon Sinek, with your why is so important, because otherwise, if you don't have a why are you getting up in the morning? You don't need to get up in the morning. And first off, no one has to work. You know, people say, oh, I have to work today. Actually, no, you don't have to go to work today. You don't need money. You can live on the street. You don't have to do anything. So when we change the way we see things, you know, even with, say, the gym, you know, people think it's, oh, the gym. But to me, I'm like, this is like self-care. I can't wait to spend time at the gym. That's my time. That's me working on my body and my health, you know. And it's not about, oh, I have to go to work. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to go to work because first off, I have a job and I like it. I like working, you know. Yes, there's some times that I'm frustrated and things like that, but frustration to me is like, okay, it's time to make changes. It's time to, you know, start finding solutions, right? So in this Life Accelerator course I'm taking through Brian Rose, it really is about, I mean, I've known about accountability, but the way that he says it in his course is basically this, like, you know, everything bad in your life that's happening is your fault. And so I was asked to speak on just to share. But I thought about it and I thought, okay, so what happens when somebody hits you and it's a car crash? Okay, is that your fault? No, that's not your fault. But how you react and how you want to recover from this is all up to you, you know? And basically, you know, oh, my boss at work is an asshole, or, and he's not, I'm just saying, or my boyfriend sucks, and, you know, my best friend, she's a bag. Well, guess what? You're the bag. You're the asshole. You suck, you know? So when you start taking accountability and owning it, because you know what? Your friend that sucks, your boss that sucks, your boyfriend that sucks, that's on you. You're staying with them. So, you know, you know, what can you do to change it? Because you know what? You can't change anybody. So how can you work with that person, knowing how they are? How can you change the way you approach them or work with them or be in a partnership with them? How can you change? You know, people always say, he doesn't hold my hand, or we don't do this and that. I said, well, do you go grab his hand? You know, what you want, you have to do. You want more love, then you give more love. But people do this. I want more love. He's not giving it to me. I'm not going to give it back to him. And that's where it starts, the resentment and everything, because you're doing exactly what you're doing to him, what you don't want, and then you're going to get more of it, you know? So do to anyone what you want more of, you know? You want a better relationship with someone, then you start reaching out to them. They're not going to reach out to you, you know? Then you reach out to them. But then people think, oh, well, I'm not going to if they're not going to, you know? Then don't complain that there's no relationship there, you know? It's the law of the universe. You put out what you get. You get back what you put out tenfold, and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, Rina, as always, we talk about things and you're so right on so many things, and we've had so many discussions before. We just shared our experiences, and it is such a fascinating thing when once you get all of those concepts and you start practicing, it just falls and flows for you, and it becomes easier and easier. So I want people to learn from this story and from your experiences. Just kind of hopefully they'll takeaway will be to go and start manifesting and learning the process and master it.
Yeah. So if we want to recap, I mean, for sure, rule number one, you have to, what do you want most in life? What is it? What's that burning desire that you want, that you can't live without, that you can't leave this planet without doing? Think about that, right? That burning desire and if you don't have a burning desire, I don't know. I would also check your diet, check your exercise routine, because people can become lethargic, you know, check your surroundings, who you hang out with. I feel like I'm having deja vu here right now. Rule number two is then once you find out what you want, you have to think about it all the time. Think about it all the time, nonstop, because think about all the things that you didn't want. You kept thinking about that. You kept getting more of that. I know that it happened to me. I was so focused on the small closet I had in Vancouver that the next two places I moved to were even smaller. I manifested that. Rule number three, you have to create a written script that you can say out loud and feel good as if you already had it, as if you're already living it, you know? So it's like your declaration, your affirmation. And what's fun is actually finding an accountability partner or getting into one of these life courses and having that support. I've tried doing it with my friends. They're not at that stage, you know? So being in a course and having that support really helps, because you're with people that are not on the same, that don't have the same goals as you, but they're on the same path to getting it. And it's doing the work. Whatever you want to do, the goals might be different, but you're doing the same work has to be done. So if you don't have an accountability partner, find something, a community or a course that you can connect yourself with people like that will support you and cheer you on. Number four, you have to continue visualizing yourself every day. Driving that car, being on that beach, paying off your debt, whatever it is, you have to visualize it every single day and believe it. Five, you need to practice positivity. That is the most important. And it's called
and work
practice,
on your fears. Yeah. And work on your fears too. Just realize them. Yeah. We all have them. But just to realize them and try to overcome them. I think it's another big one. That at least for me, that's what I learned for myself too.
But I mean, look at you moved to another country, you know, you did a spontaneous trip to Europe. Like, you know, it's just jumping. It's right there. What you want is waiting for you to go get it. You just have to take that action step, right? So You're sitting there visualizing it, feeling it, you know, now you have to act as okay, if I am to be, I don't know, I gave so many examples. If I want to own a company and bring in $10 million a month, what do I have to do? Act as if you're doing that. So what does someone do that is at that level? You are nonstop working, grinding it out, you're prioritizing, you're blocking time off. Like there's all these things that you have. Like, what do they do? I mean, look at Earl Nightingale when he wrote that book. Oh my gosh, I just had a blank. It's that famous book. Oh my gosh. Earl Nightingale. I can't believe it.
That's okay.
Anyhow, the point is that, what do successful people, how are they? They're happy all the time. There's no impossible, and they just do it, So act as if you already have it. Even though you don't have it, act as if you already have it, that, you're doing the steps to maintain and things like that. And basically the last one is just being consistent, repeat. It's like,
that's a hard one.
So. But that's all it is to it. I'm not a superwoman. I didn't have any shortcuts. There is no elevator to the top. You have to go through every floor. It's your lesson, And another thing is also this too, is that, yes, I was very fortunate to work through the pandemic, but other people don't know, some of the things that I went through, even the last couple of years where I thought, oh my gosh. And I was getting into that mode where I thought, but you have to get out of it. I mean, you have to believe that even though the thick of it, you're in your shit, that it's not permanent, it's temporary. It's how are you going to grow through it? Because you're going to get through it, but are you going to grow through it, or are you going to let this be a hindrance on actually, succeeding? Because I think that you can only succeed through failure, and then we were having a conversation last night about, knowing your worth. It's almost like you have to be in bad situations. Well, it's true. You have to go through bad situations to get you to the next, right? But some people will be in a bad situation and just stay there and then blame it and use that excuse that's why they are the way they are. And I've let people go like that. I had a friend, I don't know, maybe if she's watching this, but I don't talk to her anymore. I cut her out. It was just a constant, she had an alcohol problem. I've known her since before my son was born, and she was constantly blaming things for why she is the way she is. And then I would get the crappy end of the stick, because she would take it out on me. And if I posted something on Facebook, she thought it was about her, So for my sanity, because I don't need to explain anything to anybody, that wasn't, if my post touched you in some way and you resonated with it, great. But it's not about you. It's some of the things that I'm learning that I want to share with people so that they don't feel lonely, but instead she made it about her, So another thing, not everything's about you, it's about, we're here to serve others. That's a whole purpose, and how do you not get, taken advantage of? Don't serve that much then. That's what I had to learn. You and I are the same that way. I know many people take advantage of nice people, but really we're not going to blame them. Why? Because that's on us, So I just don't serve that. I serve, but I don't serve that much, So, but anyways, that's it. So.
Yeah. Oh, no, thank you so much. I was perfect summary of everything we discussed. And again, based on your life and your experiences, I've known you for enough years now to know your life story and seeing progressively getting better and changing and being in that positive mindset. I think it's rare and it's very valuable. So I'm really glad that you were able to share that with me and people who are listening to us. And for people who listen to us and not watching us, well, they probably hear the difference of the energy between you and me, because I'm actually going to bed very soon while you are just starting your day being in Bangkok, because it's
I haven't even had coffee.
Is it what, 10 a.m.-ish your time?
It's noon now, so yes.
Oh, it's noon now. Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. Time flies by. Anyways, yeah, as always, when we chat, we can chat forever. But I think what we'll do, what we can do, I would love to talk more with you about some of the, one of the topics for my podcast is actually women in business. So maybe we'll leave it for the next time and we can actually chat about that, because I think today I wanted to talk about manifestation, how to change your life, how to move from country to country, change environments, and go for the better, for bigger, for better. So that was the goal of our call today and our conversation. And maybe we'll leave the business side for the next time. But I'm so grateful and grateful tremendously for your time and for your story. And I value the friendship that we have and the memories that we share now, especially Italy. Now we'll chat maybe more one day about it. So yeah, I know it was awesome. So I just want to say how grateful I am for everything. And maybe last question, because every time when I finish my episode, I ask people where is the next trip for you and why. So I'm curious to know. Maybe I don't know something. Do you have any trips or anything planned? Any other move anytime soon?
Well, I'm not going to declare it just yet because I'm still, writing things down, and I want to be really clear of where I want to be. But I am finally taking a beach vacation February 2nd to 8th.
Oh, yes.
And this is funny because I've never been to Bangkok. When I came to Phuket 10 years ago to train Muay Thai, and I fell in love with Thailand. So to me, just being in Phuket, this was right after the big storm that they had, that tsunami at the time. So I just came right after that. And I fell in love with Thailand. And Thailand, I was like, I will go back. I will move there in a heartbeat. So not that I wrote it down and it wasn't my focus, but even think about that back then. Like I was like, and it had been on my mind.
You felt it. You felt it.
So before we close, one last thing. It is really thoughts turn into things. So your thoughts are so important. Even wishing things on other people. I mean, just be careful there is something to be said. Be careful what you wish for yourself and for others, So, but even just, it had been on my mind and all of a sudden, so I'm going back to Phuket, where I fell in love with Thailand, and I'm super excited. I haven't had a vacation in so long, like a proper week off where I'm going to turn off. I'm going to do my course. I'm going to focus on my body and work out and just eat fresh fruit and just get some vitamin D. And so, that's my next stop, is exploring now all of Thailand, because it's massive and there's so many places and so much history, and the people are, oh my gosh, they're so friendly, and the food, I've gained a couple sizes.
I'm so happy for you, for your vacation. Enjoy, and yes, we'll chat soon. Thank you so much for
just to let your audience know that Anna's got an incredible story as well, and I can't wait to hear her story, and I can't wait for you guys to hear her story, because that's me. I was first attracted to Anna when I met her at the party. First off, she's tall, gorgeous, and her energy was what I just was like, fell in love with. And then the minute we started talking, I was like, this chick knows, and she's going places. And look at you. So I'm so proud of you, and thanks for having me.